Hello, everyone. Hello. It's Thursday evening. We're back here as always. Promised to be here with you to have a conversation with you. Tonight we have a guest, and not only do we have a guest, we are also on the air in Liberia. No, people will not be calling in because it's late, so people will listen, and they will be calling in on Saturday morning when I'm in the kitchen. Now, yeah, of course, all of you know Coach Q. Since Yaman is not going to be with us tonight, she have Mama's duty, and we will miss her. So tonight we have a whole plate food for you to listen to. We are going to be discussing power, progress, and reclaiming accountability in Liberia. We're going to talk about the transportation industry. So we brought expert on to talk to us about maintenance. You know, in Liberia, we get these things, but we're not able to maintain it. We build, we're not able to maintain it. When we are given an opportunity, we will put our structures, and then tomorrow comes, the structure stays, and sometimes we try to sell it to other people. So we have all these unfinished businesses. So we want whenever we invest our money in as a nation to find a way, find expert, bring people on, and see how do we maintain those property that we are putting our resources into. So tonight I will bring you a gentleman by the name of Alan Patmore. Um, and then he will introduce himself when the time comes. Let me go back to Peter. Peter, welcome our guests and welcome our people. Again, welcome to Second Third Africa Reimagined. Peter.
Yeah, thanks for having me again tonight. Yasendi is. I'm looking forward to the conversation. There's so much going on. It's always a great thing to have a conversation about our country in an intellectual way. Like I told you before, we have an obligation to our people back home because we are the lucky ones. You
Yes,
know, we were the
indeed.
ones who were able to, for whatever reason, however way it happened, we were the ones who were able to leave. A lot of people would love the opportunity to leave, and they just, for whatever reason, didn't have it. And I feel like the onus and the responsibility is not on us. The saying that goes, to whom much is given, much is expected."
Mhm.
I feel like it's our responsibility to speak truth to power, especially those of us who've experienced a different system, and we have learned, and we can tell our people it doesn't have to be that way. And telling our people it doesn't have to be that way, we have to give them examples of what we're talking about. So I look forward to this conversation tonight. I know we're having two big segments. The first is about um, the buses that were promised to us, what to expect as a country, as a nation. Is it going to be, was it a good investment? We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know how much they're going to cost our children. Was it even a good investment? Um, or is it not? What should we expect? What should we look forward to with these buses? So I'm glad that Alan's here tonight to talk with us. And the second thing is about the rule of law. Um, the Supreme Court ruling came out today, and as we all know, we have a president who says, "I don't know if I'm going to support it." He's saying, "I'm still going to do what we were doing before the Supreme Court said was illegal." So I want us to talk about the importance of the rule of law and how, whenever we have selective justice, you have chaos. You cannot tell the pimpin' boys they must have insurance and wear helmets. Use the little money to do that and take their meager way of feeding their family away when they don't have those things because that's the law. And then allow the lawmakers themselves to say, we're not going to listen to the Supreme Court. You can't have both. You either have a lawless society or you have a society governed by laws. So I'm looking forward to that conversation tonight, and I can't wait till we finish.
Okay. Thank you so much. while we come back to Peter to welcome our guest and start the ball rolling, let's get with Anthony in Liberia to introduce us on the air really quickly. Then we'll come back to our guest Peter and our guest Anthony. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Thanks to everyone who following. We live here this evening, this morning, because we're going 25 minutes down 12 o'clock in Liberia. I also want to say welcome. This is the second Thought Africa Reimagine. We live. We always here Thursday and Saturday. Saturday we're here in the kitchen, like you heard from Madam Cindy, uh, beginning 3 o'clock p.m. to 4 o'clock. And we're also here Thursday from 11 o'clock to 11:55. But today we're here about 12 due to some technical reasons, and also welcome a guest on the show this evening. So my name is Anthony Don, and we're live. I'm here along with Madam Yaz Cindy, Martin P, Coach Kwekwe, and also NT Alan Padmo. Together we're going to be running the show this morning. Stay tuned as we bring you updates about Liberia, some major issues that you are interested to listening to this morning.
Thank you, Anthony. Peter, let's start up.
Yeah, so I want to start here. First of all, thank you, Anthony, for being with us. I know it's late in the morning, and we appreciate it. I should say early in the morning. I want to start off by saying, Alan, thank you so much for being here. I want us to start the conversation with you, though. And I'd like you to briefly tell us your background when it comes to transportation. How did you get the information that you have? What is your knowledge of transportation, especially as it pertains to buses?
Okay. My name is T. Allen Padmo. I'm 100% Liberian, to make everything clear. Uh, I, I, I've been in the transportation industry for 22 years. I did a few years in Ghana, and I did 18 years in the United States. And I work on the both in the administrative part, the operational part, and also I have knowledge with the maintenance part. And I've been with transportation. I went into transportation for the love of transportation because it's something that I hold dear to my heart. But to make everything clear, transportation is a big industry, and it goes in a way that it has so many parts, you know, to transportation. So it doesn't matter what part of the world you are doing transportation. We all are there to serve the people, and we all do the transportation the same way. But there are so many corners that can be cut into transportation that will not be safe for people that would be using that system in our country. So for that's what some of the things I can say about myself. I've been in transportation for 18 years.
Great. So that just segues right into the second real question I want to ask. Baseline. If someone was to ask you about transport in between states or between any long distance, for example, in Liberia, like we say from Monrovia to like Ganta, from Monrovia to Nimba, um, to Riversas, or from Monrovia to Lofa. Can you tell us the baseline structural things that the country will have to have in place just to get started? You need this, you're gonna need this, you're gonna need that. We don't know if we have it, we don't have it, but what would you recommend? What would you say we are gonna need to get started?
The first thing you will need in transportation in everywhere, you have to know the equipment that you are going to be purchasing. So those equipment that you are going to purchase, you want to know that if those equipment still have spare parts. Because I don't care how you want to maintain those buses, if they don't have spare parts, there is no way you can maintain the buses. That's the first thing. The second thing we'll be talking about will be safety. And if you are talking about safety, those who operate the buses, and we'll start with the first thing, we have to start with the mechanics. We have to know that if they know about the equipment that have been purchased. The second one, we're going to start to deal with the drivers. You understand? And the driver play an important role in the transportation. They have to have a medical exam, a mandatory medical exam, which I break down with eyes, and you have to have 20/40 in each eye. You have to do a hearing test, which is you have to able. Someone has to whisper from 5 feet, and you should be able to hear what they said. We have to do blood pressure from 140 over 90 or less. You have to do a sleep test. You have to do urine tests. And someone will say, why would I be doing urine tests? And in a urine test, we are looking for your kidney function. We have to know if you have a good kidney and that, because you're going to be sitting. And also we want to check your bladder. You understand what I mean? If everything is there, that's also. And the last one would be drug tests. So that's the first thing with the whole transportation. Well, to get to your question, if we want to run a bus from Monrovia, as you said, which county again? Can you please?
Yeah, to Lofa County, to
Peter,
Bon County, to Riverside, anywhere, any kind of long distances.
Okay. The first thing before you start the operation of those
Mr. Patmo, let me
yeah.
let me interrupt a little bit. Peter, I want you so it can be long out, short. I just want to add that's a great question, and I think he gave out a lot of information. He talked about first movement and safety. Okay, that's big. That is big because remember earlier you and I were talking about how these trucks roll over young just people and they stay there because we don't have first responder, right? We don't know what is going on with the drivers. Um, can you just before you go to that part, the movement, can you tell us about the people behind the wheel? You talk about mechanics, maintenance. You talk about the drivers. You talked about safety. You talk the maintenance part. You said there must be spare parts. So somebody would be wondering, but why would a spare part be something to think about? Obviously, the thing is built so that we have spare parts. Can you elaborate why that should be a concern? Then you come to these very few things that you just talked about and kind of give us more information so then we can get on the road to that other part. Please, Peter, is that okay?
Okay, yes, I'm going to try to explain it in a little man way for everyone to
Okay.
understand what
I'm
I'm.
going to mute myself while you talk. Yeah.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, if we talk about purchasing the buses, in a sense, buying the buses. Before you buy something, you want to know if it has a spare part. The reason a spare part is more important is for the maintenance, because you want to know that if this bus breaks down, if you're going to order a part for this bus, otherwise you're just going to be purchasing a junk. In a sense that if this bus breaks down, if you don't have a part for it, then that bus becomes spare part for the next bus. Then the next bus becomes spare part, and it just trickles down. So the reason spare part is very important. But besides the spare part, you have to make sure that the mechanics that you are hiring, they are trained to those buses. So wherever manufacturer you are purchasing those buses for, they should be asked to train your mechanics, because your mechanics have to be trained to repair those buses. And besides the mechanic training, they also need to know the various part of the buses and the different series. So you're going to know that this series that you are purchasing, you want to know the length of time this series being as in operation, because some series have they are coming to the end of life. So if I say end of life, let me give you an example. You have let's say we have a Toyota bus and we have Toyota X1. Toyota X1 may be coming to the end of life because they are just made Toyota X2. So we want to know that, okay, if I purchase Toyota X1, does Toyota X1 and Toyota X2, can both of them use the same spare part? If Toyota X1's parts cannot fit on Toyota X2 or Toyota X, you understand why vice versa? That would be a waste of money. That's why maintenance comes. Then when we come to safety, those people you put in behind the buses, they are the one that controls everything. They have to have lay knowledge about the buses, just in case if you have a minor breakdown. But before doing that, they all have to be trained. And before they get into the training, there are some medical qualification before you become a bus driver. Like in our country, we take people looking at their age, excuse for my expression, but Mama D been driving for long, so Mama D can drive the bus. That doesn't matter. Mama D can drive, but Mama D is not healthy enough to drive to Lofa County.
So, Alan, can I pause you there for a second because I do want to delve into the medical part of it because you did say you have to have all those medical exams. So I wanted that to be the next part of it. But I want you to talk about. I really want you to stick on the point about maintenance. Are you saying that these people have to be certified in those specific bus maintenance, or we could just have a general? Can we have a general heavy duty equipment person work on the bus? And what level of certification are they going to need for us to be successful, for it not to be a waste of money to purchase these buses?
Yes, we can send all the maintenance people to get trained to those buses. That becomes very expensive. But at least we need to have 3 or 4 of them that know about the buses, and through that, they can train and the others. Because the reason I'm saying that they need to know the buses, you have general mechanic, and every bus has their own style. So if you don't know what are you looking for, sometimes it's a minus and spark plug problem, or sometimes it's just computer problem. You could be taking a whole engine down, which is not necessary. You understand? That's why you need to be trained to those buses. But in order to do that, you have to be a general mechanic. Then you have to be specialized in those buses that the government are purchasing. That's one of the main things about maintenance.
So we want to establish this.
Yeah.
You're saying that the level of expertise of the people maintaining those buses is paramount. We have to be very, very particular and intentional about having those experts who knows those particular buses, not just some general mechanic. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. If Yasin doesn't have a follow-up on maintenance, I want to move to medical because you are very specific with medical. You talked about eyes exam and hearing exams and liver. Why is that so important that they go through this scrutiny? And I don't know if our government is even the part of the reason why we're having this conversation to put it out there, knowing that there are experts, so our government understands these things need to be taken into consideration if we're going to be successful and not waste the money. Why the medical? Why did you get so detailed with medical?
Because the reason I'm detailed with medical, because I drove before, and medical is very, very, very important. Because you don't want to have someone operating a motor coach that can see at least a yard in front of them. That brings danger to the passengers. So medical, the importance of medical, you have to know that those people who driving, they are physically fit to do the job. You understand? And the medical is not a one-time thing. Medical is very, very important. It's not a one-time thing. It's something depend on your health. It's done twice. It's done every 2 years, or every 3 months, or every 6 months. You understand? Depend. The importance of medical is the operation of the bus. The driver has to be in a healthy condition before he or she drives the bus. And you have to check for someone who have problem with sleeping, because you have to stay awake. You have to make sure that this guy you put in behind the bus, if he's someone that has good sight. Because when you look in Liberia, we have a lot of accidents in Liberia. Most of it comes from the driver. Fatigue. The reason you're doing all these things is to root out fatigue, because there are some diseases out there go along with fatigue. So that's the reason they are doing medical, to control, to make sure that you are in a healthy mood to operate the bus. I don't know if I did answer your question.
No, absolutely. That's what we're looking at, and thanks for saying that. So you're saying that for the government not to be liable for whether it's a lawsuit or to keep our people safe, things like the medical conditions of those who are driving their buses have to be taken very, very seriously. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Great point. Go just to take a step back a little bit. Speaking of maintenance, how often do these buses have to be serviced? Like, what will the service station look like? How many we need? Don't forget, we're talking about 55 buses to keep them maintained to where, again, we don't waste money in purchasing the buses and then they go down within a year. What type of maintenance facilities are we looking at? How often should they be serviced?
Okay. As I stated earlier, that you have to deal with the manufacturer of those buses. But in general, those buses have to be maintained according to how many miles are put on these buses monthly. You understand? So for the base, we will go, since we're having a long distance, we'll go anywhere between uh, 3,000 to 4,000, no, 3,000 miles or 4,000 miles. We will need to change the oil and things. But we have daily maintenance. The daily maintenance is the buses have to be watched. The buses have to be inspected every time it comes off the road. That means the owner carrier of the buses you have to check the bolts, you have to check the brakes. That is a daily thing that have to be done. You have to check the level of the oil, the texture of the oil before the buses go. And in that you have to rest the bus. If I say rest the bus, it's not like the bus is gonna be parked. You understand? And in resting the buses, it's like this. Now you said earlier that if you was to leave from Monrovia and go to Vonjeman, Lofa County, am I right? That was what you said? Okay. So if some, I don't know, you have to tell me the distance. I don't know how far it's from Monrovia to Lofa County, because time travel also is part of maintenance when you come to the buses. So if you have a bus that went 150 miles or 200 miles, that bus have to be rested. That bus cannot come back again on that same mile. You just cannot put 500 miles on a bus a day. It have to be. And secondly, when it comes to the maintenance, you need garages. As I stated, all the buses can't come out of Monrovia. All the buses can come. So every area that you have a central point, that's how we call it, a central hub, you have to have a garage there. And the buses in Lofa County stays in Lofa County. So you have to have a central point to keep up the buses. So I don't know, I forgot how Liberia, but if you're coming from Lofa to come all the way to Monrovia with one bus, that's just too much. If you come on the maintenance part. So
So, 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 Patmo, let me come in for a second. So I'm not sure how many hours it is from the I know from Monrovia to Ganta is at least 3 hour and 45 minutes at maybe 65, 70 mile an hour, which they're always doing about 80, 90, 100 at a time. Anyway, that's why they have that plenty accident. I know from there, and that's about what 65 times 3, or let's say 80 times 3 is what 100 and what that what we say what mile an hour. It's about 4 hours, so 65, 65, about 80, 80, 160 to 240, about that 240 miles. So if you're going beyond that, like to Tapeta, that's at least 500 miles around that if not five, but maybe around about, right, yeah, close to 500 miles. So you say if they're going that far, there must be maintenance there. Things have to be changed over before it can come back, and they have to be a rest area. They have to be a maintenance done. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, what I'm saying, you can have one bus doing a 500 miles. And because the reason I'm saying it is the road condition. So
Okay.
you can run those buses, but you have to have a hub. So I would use Nema County, and I will use Monrovia, and I'm going to use Bon County. Am I right?
Mhm.
Okay. So if a bus leaves Monrovia and the bus is going to Nema County, yes, you can leave Monrovia to go to Nema County, but you're gonna swap buses because that one bus is not carrying you. Number one, number two, we have the driver fatigue. You can't have one driver just driving straight to Nema County in a 500 miles. That's just too much. So you have to have a central hub. That's how safety and maintenance work together in transportation. So,
Okay.
so that's the thing I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm trying
So
to make it as clear as for everyone to
yeah, yeah,
understand.
it's good. It's good, Mr. Padmo, because we want our people to understand where we're coming from, what we're talking about.
Yes.
So you are also telling in a nutshell, the servicing or the maintenance of the buses help prolong the life of those buses. What are the timeline? Because the thing is, in Liberia, every 2 years, our lawmakers have to change their cars. I don't know anywhere in the world. Okay, even you and I who live in America and work, we don't change our cars every 2 years. Say you're leasing it, and the company is leasing it for you. Okay, and they have to buy it to themselves. So what usually you would say, just give us a perimeter. What is the life of those buses?
The life of buses depend on the maintenance.
Okay.
You understand? We are looking for anywhere between 1 to 20 years, depend on maintenance.
Mm, okay.
You understand? That's why I stated earlier that if you're purchasing those buses, you have to work along with a manufacturer to know if they have passed or if those buses are at the end of their life. If they're at the end of their life, it's a waste. It's a waste of money. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So
Right.
you can have those buses from 1 year to 20 years. But in between, you have to buy some equipment. You can't keep using the same equipment because the older the buses are, the shorter distance they can travel to expand their lifespan. You understand what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. So let me ask this question before I come to the climate, and that's the next thing I want to talk about. That's the climate. The fact that we have so much dust in Liberia, would that exacerbate or make maintenance even more paramount, or make it worse, or force you to be more particular, or more have the buses go through maintenance check more frequently? I will come to that in a second. Okay. So are you now telling us, before you put buses on the road, if you're going to do buses, you better first have these maintenance garages, or the chances of not being successful or them breaking down goes up exponentially? Is that what you're saying? Those structures, infrastructure of maintenance have to be in place first.
Yes, because purchasing those things is no different from you purchasing a home. If you purchase your home, you do maintenance on the home for it to last longer. You understand? So the reason we need this service area is that if these buses get to one point, they need to be checked. They need to be serviced. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
That
Hmm.
that's how we are saying, because people will say it's a bus, so I can drive it any kind of way I want to, but we are using government money and we are using poor people money, and when we do take those money from them, we have to give them the best service, and the buses has to stay looking good, even if the buses have been in the country for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 years. The reason for that is maintenance. So if you take a bus, and as Peter stated, the dust, that's one of the things. The dust and the snow, they serve the same purpose. In the United States, we have snows. In Africa, we have dust. So the reason for that, as I say, when those buses come from on the road after the dust, they have to go to the wash bay. The owner carrier have to be washed every day. Every day, because dust bring rust. We are trying to fight rust. That's why you have to inspect the boats. Because if you're not inspecting the boats, if you get in rust and something happened and it's a minor thing, it takes you forever to get it apart because it have rust out. So every time cleaning it, it stay clean. You have to clean it. You have to oil it for it to stay new. That's why the maintenance is very, 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 very important.
Okay. So if you don't mind, Peter will come in. So we've learned tonight, just how you call it, that number one, those buses will create job. And not only does it create job, you need a trained workforce to operate it. I think that's what Mr. Patmos said, right? And you're not just a trained workforce, you need a healthy workforce to, because it's that particular person is in charge of lives. That person have to have durability in respect to their kidney have to be functional. They need not to be on drugs. That's what you said, right?
Yes,
For safety purposes, the kidney have to be, how you call it, they need to do a thorough medical exam. They need
yes,
to be trained to also understand the mechanics of the equipment that they're operating. Okay. So there need to be service station
yes,
to be able to preserve or to maintain the product or the investment.
yeah.
That's I don't know if those are stuff that I know here we consider it. I'm not sure if they're considering in Liberia because when and I think I don't know what street it's called. That street that they used to do the make the gold on. Peter, when you go over there, all those they call it what do you call it? Where the bus? Where the bus? That's a name for it. Um,
The station.
no, there's those buses that man used to carry when he needs. I just like used to carry the killer bean. The
Oh,
killer bean
yeah,
will be
those are
parked.
school buses.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just
The yellow
saying.
bus.
Yeah, we call it yellow buses, but in Liberia they call it killer bean, right? They
Yeah,
will be broken down all over the street, just parked anywhere and everywhere in Monrovia, like literally littering all over the place. So we're bringing this because whether we talk, we don't talk, it seems that they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. But to maintain the little money that we have, to at least invest most of it into education, into healthcare, into women health, maternal health, and all of that. We're trying to help our country out in regards to how to, when you do this, these are huge investment. Okay. They say they spend $1.3 million on that. $1.3 million is a lot. All right. But we also want to help that we maintain it. Guys, that's just the beginning of the conversation. We're gonna go over to process, powered, and the rule of law later. So, and you also talked about spare parts. Okay. So I'm a human being. If I go to the hospital, my kidney start failing and I don't get another kidney, I'm literally a liability to say. So that's what you're saying. I'm not saying this case. So you should be able to get spare parts, and depending on the age of the product you're purchasing, you may not be able to get spare part. And even if you can, it may not even be in the country, right?
Yes, but whosoever that does the purchasing, he or she should know that if they are purchasing those buses, as I stated earlier on too, you have to know spare part is very important. You cannot maintain something if you don't have the parts for it.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? You need spare parts. And as Peter stated, general mechanic, there's nothing wrong with a general mechanic, but you need someone who specializes in the buses, because it's also help labor and laboring time, and it helps a lot of things. Because if you hear a noise from the bus, if a guy is a general mechanic, he could say, "Oh, the engine is knocking, and I have to take the engine down," or if the sound is coming from the transmission. No, sometimes you just need to change a few.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
why you need someone to be specialized in those buses. And that person can say, okay, no, we don't need to take the engine down. We just need to change a few. I hope you understand what I'm trying to
Oh
say.
yeah,
Yeah,
because they understand the product, and
yeah,
they have some level, or maybe they're expert in that, and they
yes,
understand the movement when it shakes. Or yes, we get that. Thank you, thank you.
yes,
So if I can quickly jump in,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I think this conversation is much more profound, and I want to see if I can elevate it a little bit. The conversation is about the buses being brought in. It sounds really good. Transportation is a need in Liberia. So our government spent almost $1.5 million to bring in buses. However, what we are now learning is it's not that simple. When you bring these buses in, so that just like the yellow buses, the killer bees that we call them, they're not later all over the place. The reason you see them everywhere is because maintenance matters. In the United States, the oil, if your car has to be changed, I think it's every 3,000 miles or whatever. My thing, the
About.
reason
Mm-hmm.
I take it in and they change the oil, and the reason you need to do that is so it's functioning. To do that with these buses, we're learning that you need experts working on these buses. They need to be particular. Maybe all of them don't have to be experts, but there has to be experts who counsel those people working on the buses, so that we're able to maintain them, because we just spent almost $1.5 million of them. We can easily lose that money if we don't maintain these buses.
All
That's
right.
what this.
Peter, not to cut you, let me say something quick before I forget. You guys just said about oil change, and the reason I said that you need someone who are expert on these buses. Every engine has a different texture of oil. It's not a general thing. So
Yes.
so that's why I keep pressing on maintenance. I don't know if I'm going off a topic, but
No, you're
I,
good.
yes, the thing I'm saying you need, because you can't just take any oil off the street, and because it's a diesel oil, and you just say, okay, I'm going to change it because the KW buses use this oil and fuel everything. That's why you have to deal with the manufacturer for them to tell you in a setting, if those buses was new or used, that comes to the sector. If it was used buses, you want to know the previous owner have to give you the ministry of how he or she was maintaining the bus before it was purchased by you, for you to go by the same guideline. So that's two way in maintenance: a newer way and an older way. If the buses were used, you want to the previous owner, they have to provide you with information in maintaining these buses, because and also before you purchase it, if it's used, you want to also go to the manufacturer of those buses to make sure that those spare parts will be available in the next 20 years.
So,
Mhm.
so we have this. So let me close. And thanks for saying that. It boosted my point a little bit more that I'm trying to make. So in education, we have this thing called framing, right? So let's try to put this all together. And to me, the bus, what we're talking about, is a metaphor for what happens in Liberia. I think we take, and I know we take things for granted. The amount of details you just told us about the bus, that's not something I would have thought about as a lay person. I wouldn't have thought about the kidney of the driver. I wouldn't have talked about, well, dust equal rust, so therefore we got to check the bus every day. That means we have to have a lift for those buses, right? A system of lift.
No, you can have a well. The well.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
yes.
they
Where you
use
change the
bus
oil,
drive.
yeah,
Your bus
yeah.
drive over it. Yeah.
So you have to have these things put in place. And the point I'm making is, I'm not sure if we have them. I don't know if we have them. Okay, that's something we can look into. But what I am saying is, we're about to spend a lot of money on these buses. Just as
I think Peter, you already have. So I think they already now they spent $1.3 million to purchase that. That's what they said. In fact, there's a trouble out there that the prices were inflated and they were supposed to be like 28K, the one that the particular one they purchased. But the back of that bus I just showed is actually the Tata buses. And I think Mr. Padmo were able to, just when I see the Tata buses, he said they're from India. So they're from India. I'm going to play this a little bit while you can talk on that, and then we can finish and transition to our next topic, if that's okay. If Mr. Padmo and Peter, you can let us in on more. What more do we need to know? I've chronicled what you told us. And somebody else here, Mr. Emmanuel Jackson, say everything you say is on point. He drove for the state of Boston for 8 years, and everything you're saying is correct. And that's why we're here. We're here to educate. We educate you, you educate us. Okay, we're advocates. We're not here looking for your job. We're not here looking. When we're ready to look for a job in Liberia, we will put our name in the hat. Okay, we are Liberians and we'll do so. For now, we will call people out and we'll hold people accountable. That is the goal. And we will support our country at all times, and we'll support our leader when they deserve it. If they don't deserve it, they're not going to get it. So, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah. So the point I was making was the level of details and nuanced details that you just went in. To me, it's a metaphor for a lot of things in our country. When we are picking a president, I had a conversation with someone today who says, "Oh, Liberia, we're not ready," or "You can't know a person's heart when you pick a person." We're talking about how much of a failure Joseph Boycott is as a leader, and this person pretty much was diverting the responsibility that we had as middle-aged men and women, and we picked the person without vetting him. What this bus situation is telling me, don't forget now, we have $22 million or $25 million we about to come with yellow machines. What's the level of maintenance they need to have? This is not the first time we got earth moving machines in Liberia. There are a bunch of them in Lo-Fi just parked. The question is why? Okay. And what I told this gentleman today was, why do we have this people who you pick as leaders come and do the same things? It's not because you don't know their heart. It's because we're using the same process to pick them. We're using tribalism. We're using political party affiliation instead of asking real questions. And we want someone to rescue us like we are little children. You're grown men. I'm like, if I'm picking someone to lead the lives of my children, you best believe I'm going to ask real questions about the whys, the hows, and the whens. And the question, what I'm saying is, Liberians, we are already doing that. And we want to act like we are teenagers that's supposed to have our hands held when we make these decisions. Who's asking about what the maintenance of these yellow machines are going to be? We talk about these buses, $1.5 million close, $200,000 for these buses. Who's asking what the maintenance is going to look like? When the medical exam for these bus drivers, or we're just going to use that money that we could have used on building new schools, equipping our hospitals for our moms, buy an ambulance. We could use that 1.5 million to buy ambulances so we don't have to put our babies in the back of a pickup truck when they get in a car accident, or have a medical facility or trauma unit. We could have used it for that. Okay. So, and people see the buses and like, oh, development. What I'm saying is we need to start acting like grown adults and stop acting like children and ask real questions. We don't ask hard enough questions to so-called leaders. That is a problem. That is our responsibility. We have children looking up to us who trust that we will keep them safe and give them the best opportunities to live a good life. We have that. And we're skirting the responsibility. We just let this man or whomever go and purchase $1.5 million or $1,200,000 for buses without saying, where are these mechanic shops that are going to be working on them? What is the logistics for these buses? Are we just going to put someone there who's been driving so they're going to drive? How long is it going to take before they break down? So now that means we just wasted $1.5 million for what? So to me, it's a metaphor, just like we pick presidents. Do you ask questions? You're going to build roads, sir. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? What's the timeline? The budget is 90% recurring expenses. When are we going to pay back any loans? What are you giving up to get these buses? We're not asking any questions. So what I'm pressing on right now is Liberians and our people acting like children. And we can't sit here and just let people act like children without asking real questions. And then at the end, put our hands up, be like, well, we just, the people are not good. It doesn't work that way. Okay. You have a responsibility, especially those of us in this country that have seen better. You have the responsibility to your children, to your country. Okay. So that's the point I want to make on that. Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. So to close up on this part, I totally agree with you, Peter. We elect people based on tribe and based on political party. Then later they say, oh, let's come together for the sake of the country. You are lying to yourself. It's not for the country. It has never been about the country. It's about you. It's about your tribe. It's about your friend. It's about how you're going to get a job or how you're going to keep your job. So it's not about the country. It's not about the future of the country. Okay. It's not about that. We just saw that. Okay. But since we have Mr. Patmore and this is his topic, Mr. Patmore, send us away as we transition to our next topic on your advice to our people who are using our money in about 2. And then I'm going to go to and see there's a young man on the line, get his voice for 2 minutes. Then we're going to transition to the verdict from the Supreme Court, the reaction from the president and his people. And then we'll take that from there. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. To comment everything, I know you guys asked me a question, and I was mainly on maintenance because the reason, as Peter stated, purchasing, spending all those money, and there is no future plan to maintain and to keep those buses is a waste of money. And purchasing 55 buses, that's a lot of buses to be maintained. And secondly, I will go back to safety. One of the main thing of safety is the accidents. You have to minimize accidents with those buses, and those buses need to be governed. If I say govern, is like if you get in your car, you can do 100 miles an hour. It doesn't matter because you the driver, you can do. But those are public transportation. It has to get to a certain speed. That limit accident. That doesn't put accident off the picture, but it limits it. When I say medical for the driver, it doesn't mean. Let me make this clear. It doesn't mean that if you have a kidney problem, you can't drive a bus. You can drive a bus if you do have a kidney problem, but we have to know the level. If you have a bad eye, you can drive a bus. but you will need glasses. If you have hearing problem, you can drive a bus, but you will need a hearing aid. So these are all these things safety come about. But to close everything, I don't know the year of the buses. I don't know the type of the buses. I don't know the series. I don't know anything about the buses. I don't know if it's new or it's old. That's why I'm just generalizing everything.
Yeah, and that's good. Yeah.
Yes. So that's all I will have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Patmo. And Anthony, since you are in Liberia, do you have any input? You're young people, you're in high school or college, you're running for a car every day or for keke. What's your thought on that? 2 minutes. Anthony, don't go to sleep on us.
Yeah. Basically, I've been following that the 5 buses issued lately. I've not acquired any further information concerning um, the ages of the bus, whether it's similar buses that came a few months ago into the country. I don't know, um, but the buses are on the ways, and we're gonna know when they arrive or before they arrive. I'm very sure. I'm quite optimistic that the government is gonna make a pronouncement of the buses, um, their ages, whether they're old buses or they're new buses. And I mean, those targeted areas, plan changes sometimes. The plan that was captured might not be used. A different plan might come up. So we're expecting to hear pretty soon from the government. But lately, I've not gotten any proper information concerning this entire bus 55
Thank you.
bus issue.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to transition and Mr. Patmo would like to keep you so we can talk about what country that you came on. The first thing you said, I'm 100% Liberia, although you were living in Ghana. So
No, I was a refugee in Ghana.
the people don't care you are living in Ghana. Now, all we know, we living here. We are a refugee. They say that now their business to know we here. So that means we don't have the same right. So I want to play this video really quickly about what transpired. I believe it was today, somewhere in Liberia. Okay. Here you go. These are your lawmakers. Let's play this. So in a nutshell, okay, their lawmakers are going from office to office. Remember that building, they've made no adjustment to it. Okay, that building have no elevator. Okay, although we're in 2025, these people make millions. Okay, and you see them going up the stair, everybody following one another, and we saw them going back and forth in the offices and saying what the Supreme Court said. So let's start from the rule of law. Peter, I think you teach a foundation of government from middle school to high school and to college here in America, and at one point out of Ivy League. So talk to us. Let's all come in here a little bit. And if you're out here, guys, this is Second to Africa. We're here Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're live in Monrovia. Saturday morning, we're here in the kitchen talking. What boys the pot? Okay, so we are going to talk. We're citizens. And as long as the Constitution says we the people, we're going to talk. And folks, let me say to you, I know some of you are on my post. I do not care about what you say. I will support my country at all times, and I will support a leader who does what is right by my people. The people can say my eating pay night in your house, and I will call you. And I'm not your everyday Liberian. Okay, you don't come and curse and disrespect me. Then we say let's leave it to go or let's leave it because it were elections. No, during elections, you still have to show character. If you don't have it, I will drop you cold, and I've dropped some of you, and you don't get it. That's the way it is. I will speak to you, but my country, the future of my children come first, because the decision that you people make impacts me, impacts my family, impacts my uncle, my nephew, and then it put burden on me to try to take care of them, to try to educate them, to try to keep them healthy. It does that. I've done that since I was 17. So I have an issue with that. We cannot continue to go on this route. Certain people come, they have no respect for the rule of law, especially the law that brought them to power. Peter, let's start with the Supreme Court. Jackson, I would have loved to have you here. So I don't know what happened. I inboxed you today. Peter, let's start with you. Let's roll the ball, and then we'll go around the room.
Okay, so I would like to start with the Supreme Court decision. Basic civics. Yes, there are 3 branches of government, and they all have their own function. Before I talk about the 3 branches of government, I must say this. Procedures and processes matters when it comes to law creation. Here's why. Because vetting matters. When we come up with laws and come up with a constitution, which is just a group of laws that governs us, our country, what had to happen was there had to have been a process. This was a vetting process, an intellectual vetting process, where their peers. This is why it's important for universities, when universities hire peer review professors. Here's why that's important. All a peer reviewing professor is just other expert in your area that look at what you said, whatever claims you made, and says, this person is right, this person is wrong. But these are experts in the field. So when those people can sit and say, yeah, I was looking to poke holes in what this person said, but they were right, that person's an expert. Universities pay more for peer review experts because they have gone through the vetting process. They have gone and studied the nuances, things that the lay person don't just study, don't think about. They studied the little details that you didn't even think about. They thought about the kidney of the driver that most people don't even think about when they think about a bus, someone driving a bus. They have thought about the little details. When the lawmaking process comes, the reason why the law is so important and it stays and governs the country, because there are a group of people in the room. Someone makes an assertion, someone proposed this should be a law, and they debate that. The laws that we are following were debated by some of the smartest, the most brilliant humans to ever walk this planet Earth. I'm going all the way back to John Locke, the person who believed that we can have democracy, whereas we get to remove our leaders. Until John Locke, until that philosopher, we had kings and queens, we had monarchies. And we had these people called absolute monarchs. Whereas whatever they said, like Donald Trump is operating right now, whatever I say, go, without anyone pushing back. The Constitution that we have were literally debated step by step by step by step by very, very intelligent people. I want to talk about this guy called James Madison. James Madison was one of the authors of this Constitution. He was one of the people in the room. And this Constitution came about when they were saying, let's create this government and let's have separation of powers. And why is it important to have separation of powers? The people were very nervous about having a government that had a president who could operate like a king. They were
Right.
afraid of that. You know why? Because when you give people power to do that, they tend to abuse it, just like Trump is doing now. None of this stuff is strange or brand new. So they were afraid we cannot give too much power to any one person. We have to have a way to make sure some of their powers are checked. They can't just do anything they want. So what Madison was saying, how do we go about doing that? He proposed, it was not just him, other philosophers proposed we have separation of power, 3 branches of government. So there's this one rod, break it up in 3, and make sure that when one person is trying to get offline, the other person stops them because they don't want them to usurp powers. They debated that. Here's what James Madison said. The argument was, who gets to be in government? James Madison said, if men were angels, we wouldn't need government. And if angels operated government, we wouldn't need all the structures in government. Madison was arguing that people are going to do things to help themselves. People are going to be not only immoral, people are going to be selfish, people are going to be greedy. We need checks and balances to make sure they're not able to be greedy and take from the people. This is why they came up with the 3 branches of government. And this was debated. And this man wrote what was called a Federalist paper after paper after paper, arguing with anyone with any level of intelligence, challenged me. And these people debated that, and they finally came up with the government we have. Why did I say all this? One of the things they came up with was the rule of law matters. This is what I was talking about James Madison. We have to have a way to check the people in government. When you have a so-called president, and I'm saying so-called president, I'm not saying he's not the president of Liberia. I'm saying he's not my president. Just like I'm gonna say that person's not a father. It doesn't mean he didn't give birth. He didn't father a child. I'm saying he's not the type of man that I would look at as a father. Or if I say someone's not my friend, it doesn't mean he's not a friend to someone. This man's not my type of president. Why is that? The rule of law matters. The structure matters. The reason this country and the countries that have mimicked this constitution were able to survive to this point is because they knew those rules matters and they followed them. The reason why gangsters and these mobsters shoot at each other is not because they're not doing business. It's because people in that world sometimes don't follow the rule of decorum. So if I want to get rid of the leader, I just get to shoot you and take you out. It doesn't work like that in government. Okay, that is called a state of nature. For us to have a president, let's go back to Supreme Court ruling. Basic civics. Here's how it works. Anything that deals with the Constitution, any constitutional issue, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of that. They are the voice of that paper that was written by really smart people. If they say this is what we believe the paper is saying, so be it.
So Peter, let me come in a little bit and you can come back, okay? And I need Liberian people to understand this because I know Peter keeps saying Jim Madison. And I know people will say, why is he carrying Jim Madison? Jim Madison, okay? Liberia Constitution is literally a carbon copy of American Constitution. The foundation is from here. Before they brought those together, they first had a different paper, a different constitution, sort of kind of, okay, that was locked. And I believe it did not even have 2 branches of it did not have a bicameral, what do you call it, constitution.
It was just the Article of Confederations, you're right.
Yeah, the Article of Confederation, okay, that was the paper at the time, okay. So we understand the Supreme Court, okay, or the judiciary, which you got the legislature, you have the judiciary, and then you have the executive. The executive job is what? To manage the state and what? And enforce the laws. Okay. The judicial job is to interpret and to administer the law. So you are here, these boneheads, all over because that's their political party. The very people that all were standing in line yesterday at the U.S. Congress, the very people that were with me in the street in New York City, okay, that were in the street with me at the Liberian embassy, are now telling us the Supreme Court needs to shut up. That's not their job, okay? The Supreme Court can tell you if that does not coincide with the Constitution, it's unconstitutional. That means it does not stand. All right? It does not stand. And when let me tell you something, it's like Peter talked about the father. Let me give you a common example. If the person who's supposed to uphold the law fails to uphold the law, you have a failed state. You have a president who thinks the law does not matter. The law is the one that brought him to power. The very Bible that, because based on the Constitution, you have to take oath, right? You went through the process of what they call it election, which is mandated by the very Constitution. You cannot ignore it. But I want to come back and see, circle back to see if Mr. Patmo want to add up, and then we'll come back to you, Peter. Okay, so I want you to understand the judiciary administer the law and interpret the law. Liberian people, okay, because everyone is an expert. Yes, I teach basic civic in school, so middle schooler. Okay, I want you to know that. So, Mr. Patmo, your voice, because I mean I'm watching Facebook right here. People who live in the United States. People who live in this country and follow laws are telling you what the president said they're not going to do it. The Supreme Court should not have said one word. The Supreme Court cannot say that's their job. I'm getting animated, but go ahead.
You know, one thing I want to say for the layman out there, you see, the president is the head of the state. Then you have the legislature and the judiciary. If the president says that he's not going to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court, I mean, simply the president is trying to tell us there is no rule or law. So the first thing we need to do, for me to say, now I'm just talking on a plain point, we need to go to Saw Beach and let everybody go free, because those people were put in Saw Beach
That's big.
because of the law. So anyone in the Republic of Liberia that get arrested should be released, and no one, and we should dissolve the Liberian National Police, because we have a state that the law does not matter. So, and Gregory Coleman will not have a job. So Gregory Coleman will have to dissolve the Liberian National Police. The reason I'm saying that, because if you're getting rid of one branch of government, because if you're not going to adhere the Chief Justice ruling, that means that branch of government does not operate anymore in Liberia. Because the president does not have any jurisdiction with the Justice Ministry, or let me say the Justice Ministry with the judiciary. So if he's saying that he's not going to obey those laws, that means we don't have any law. No one should be arrested in Liberia. I'm just saying it on the layman point. That's how I feel when I heard that the president said he's going to do what he's going to do. So that means why would we be keeping people to Saw Beach? Why we need a Liberian National Police? We don't need those. We don't need them. We're just going to go and listen to whatever the president say. That's what we all going to do. That's the only thing I can say. That's my only point I can get across.
Peter?
Yeah, so I forget the point I was making, but it's along the lines of what Alan just said. The rule of law matters. Without the rule of law, you have nothing. There's no reason to pull no kid off a keke talking about insurance. You shouldn't be talking about no registration. Nothing matters. Selective justice is no justice at all. So what you was pretty much saying is you're gonna put chaos, put our families in this condition of chaos and turbulence because you want to remain as a speaker, the head of the house. You're literally saying, do as I say, not as I do. It doesn't work like that. Government is structured for a reason. The executive has to enforce laws passed by the legislative, and the check that the judiciary has on the executive and the legislative is they get to say what's constitutional. That's the point I was trying to make. Just like the pastor says, this is what God wants. He's the voice. The book doesn't speak itself. He's the voice. That's what the Supreme Court is. And this is not about religion. I'm saying whatever the Supreme Court says is what God wanted. The God is the Constitution.
Excuse me, Peter. Can I say something?
Absolutely.
If the Supreme Court gave a ruling, the president does not have to take the Supreme Court ruling. The president can say, I'm not going to go by what the Supreme Court is saying. I'm going to do my own thing. And we have a name for president like that. So I don't know. Maybe we trying to become like North Korea, because I don't think North Korea have a Supreme Court. You understand what I mean? And we could be like Iraq. We could be like Libya. You understand what I mean? And I think that's how Liberia is. But in a constitution thing, if the Supreme Court rules, it's the law of the land, and the president can say that's not a law. If he can say it, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want the ruling. But the people of Liberia, we the one elected the president. You understand what I mean? So if we Liberians will sit and someone does not respect our laws, because the Constitution is the law of the people, and the president is just an individual. So if the president say, I don't obey that law, but are we Liberians going to obey the law of the land?
So again, quickly, let me land on this, and just to bolster what Alan just said. I don't know if you're going to get to that later, but I want to say now, yes, Sandy.
Go ahead.
There was a post about, someone posted and said, and I do want to talk about how I think I forgot who it was last night talking about we want a seat at the UN Security Council.
They're crazy.
I forgot who it was. It will come to me in a second. Here's why I mentioned that. Right?
I think that's Moali. I think that's Moali.
Yeah. So
that's Moali. Mm-hmm.
So Moali said. So somebody said, we're not going to get investors if they see that our country is chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
These people think this is about them. We're not going to get investors. Not going to come to a country where you don't follow the rule of law, where it's so turbulent, where there's no stability, where you cannot predict anything. Moali did a post. This government official, right? The water and sewer guy, as if they're talking to him or his pa. He did a post saying, "Okay, so let's now let the investors stay and let them not come." Who are you talking to, Moali? Who are you talking about? Other people's children? I don't
blame them.
Exactly, because Moali has a job, so he says, "I don't care, investors come." Job making how much? So because Moali can steal $250,000
$1,000 and nothing happened. Here it is. This is where this is it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. He says something about let them not come or let them stay away.
Yeah, let them stay away.
Who are you talking about? Other people's family?
Oh, but Peter, a lot of the time when Liberians talk about investor, they are looking at Lebanese, Chinese men, Indian men, American men. But you, Peter, every one of us here.
Yes, and I say that all the time. Yes.
You understand? We are investors.
We are the investors.
Yeah. No most of these people that go back home, the money that they take back home is less than the money they take out of the country. So for those of us who want to invest in Liberia, we don't have anywhere to take the money. So when these people talking about, when a lot of people talk about investor, we always looking at America, China, and all this, and we forget about the locals. You understand what I mean? Those market women and thing. Of course, in Liberia, we don't look at them to be anything, but those are the investors right there. So if more artists say the investor, they don't, we don't need them, but they are already there. The investors are already in the country.
Yeah, and my point is, Morley don't get to say we don't need it. You don't get to speak. You work for water and sewer. You don't get to tell me my cousins, my family, my family don't get to have people
So,
come and invest in the country. Let me
so
land
pe-
on this real quick, Yasendi. You don't
Mhm.
get to say that. And the point I'm making, y'all, is he's so brazen about it. He is so comfortable saying it because he's okay.
right, Peter, remember how desperate this guy was during the CPP when they were trying to lie. Remember when they went to court? First, they started with the block voting, and they said they wanted to do block when they could not find a way. Mo Ali was the same one who said there would be no third way. Okay, there would be no third way. There will either be them who wanted to come back to power, or CDC can stay. And today, their people are mad because people either endorse CDC or they did this, they did that. Because it must be more allegiant were educated with our country money. Those are the ones I call government brats, scholarship brats. Most of them gave the men who I'm saying it, okay, to be where they are. So they have no dignity. They don't care about other people because they know where they let go. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm gonna say most of them. Okay, because we know the UP-led government, the damage that they caused in Liberia in respect to crossing the street to Susanna, that's the name of. So he's telling you your people can die. He don't care. He's telling you we can continue to have 90% unemployment. He and his family and his girlfriend and his boyfriends are fine. Okay, we can continue to have women dying in childbirth for $175 operation that they cannot afford. He's going to be fine. He can leave the country. Okay, le pape Boaka, his wife are being in Ghana and somebody come here can't cost me, which I don't care. Okay, how I saw a Ghanaian, one of a medical doctor out of Ghana saying the other day, no African leader or a policymaker should be allowed to leave Africa, to leave their country, to go to other country to seek medical help. They need to do it in their country. If the people local that hire you to do the job cannot do it. So that's what Mo Ali is telling us. They're telling us the people don't matter. This is about them.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cindy. It goes back to the point of impunity, and
Okay.
It goes back to accountability. The fact that Morali is talking so tough, it makes me want to throw up. I'm like, when did this guy become a tough guy? Who are you hang? What men are you around that let this man talk like that? Okay, let them stay out as if he's talking about someone he could just look at and say get away. Morali is almost a woman when I look at him. That's the guy who say it's okay for people to suffer. We don't care. Let the investors stay away.
yeah, but that's why we call loyalty on steroids, because most Liberians, we don't understand who are you loyal to, the country or your party. If you were to ask me, I will always be loyal to Liberia, because not to a political party. So like Liberia run in the thing. If we have a political party, whatever the political party deem necessary, that's what everybody gonna do. Because if you don't do that, it shows that you're not loyal to that party, and we need to try to deviate from that behavior. So by more Ali making that remark, if you were asking me, probably he just want to look good in the eye of the president. You know, that's how Liberia works.
Okay, so we are not, if you're in the US and want to call in and you have something to contribute, we will put the number in Liberia. We're not taking call because it's late. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And Anthony, we're gonna lay in a few minutes so you can go to bed because you gotta go to school tomorrow. So Anthony, let's solicit from you. You're on the ground, you know what is happening, you're a journalist on the ground. Talk to us from a more professional standpoint, not an opinion standpoint, Anthony, if you're there. We appreciate it. Just talk to us and then we will try to close on this side while you go to bed. Anthony.
Thank you, thank you. So let me say thanks to those that are following the show this morning. Few hours ago, the Supreme Court of Liberia ruled something that Liberians were craving for, they were waiting for. It happened, but then it brought up controversy. Months back, early in November last year, 2024, a group of lawmakers that was self-styled the majority bloc unilaterally removed Funati Kofa and elected Honorable Richard Nagbe Cohn as their speaker. But the thing is, this happened outside the established legislative protocols. So after that, Kofa filed a bill of information to the Supreme Court to assert his position and also requesting the court to publicly tell the public that Honorable Cohn is not legitimate and that everything he does is illegal. But then the first ruling came up, and just as how President Bouakai addressed today is still in the background, and Liberians are finding it difficult to process it. That is how the first ruling was. The Supreme Court ruling started with Funati Kofa and also labeled the majority bloc, their entire actions, their appointment, decision, and authority on Cohn, including budget allocations, as unconstitutional and illegal. So it means Honorable Kofa is the legitimate speaker of the House. That was what the Supreme Court said, according to the Constitution of Liberia. So they invalidated everything done on Cohn's speakership. But then on the ground in Liberia, there are too many people who are upset and they are questioning the Supreme Court's ruling. They believe the Supreme Court knowingly accepted some budgetary allocations from an illegitimate speaker, Richard Cohn, even though they already knew that he wasn't legally elected as speaker. But the thing is, the court didn't act blindly. The court followed the process. Even though they might have known the truth, the court must follow the legal process or procedures. They can't add or they can't make public declarations without a formal petition or a case. And that was what Kofa did. Kofa filed the bill of information, and the court now had a legal ground to issue a ruling. And that was what they did. Operations had to continue while the case was pending. The Supreme Court could not shut down because one person is saying he's a speaker and another person is saying he's a speaker. One of them don't want to agree with their friend. Government institutions don't stop running while cases in court. Not because the Supreme Court did not receive budget allocations because they approve of Cohn, but because the system of the entire legislature was in limbo. So The ruling now, the Supreme Court declared Coon's leadership illegal. And that is where the controversy has been coming from. And that also triggered the president's address to the nation.
So what did the president say? Where is the tape? I didn't see
So
it.
President Boakai, there are a few things he said. He said too many things, but I captured a few things, 3 major points that I capture. But just before I get to it, let me conclude on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, they did not discover the truth. They acted when the time was right. And they acted through legal procedure. So, like I said, institutional collapse while awaiting rulings. So the court maintained its operation, and now the ruling is clear. And we almost must respect the ruling. So now President Boakai came with an address to the nation. And everyone was eager to know which side the president is going to align with. But just as I said, the court's first ruling, as it was unclear, that is how President Boakai's address seems to be unclear to citizens in Liberia. So the first thing I capture is he acknowledged the Supreme Court's ruling, but he did not fully support it. The president agreed that the Supreme Court ruled because they are the highest decision-making body when it comes to the constitution and the law of Liberia in the country. And so he respected the fact that they ruled. They gave the decision, the final decision. And he also said the problem in the House is unresolved. Even though the court clearly said that Kofa is the legitimate speaker. The president said the case in the House is unresolved. But then the president also went on
Anthony, go ahead and land.
Okay. The president also went ahead and said he's going to continue, his administration will continue doing business with the people that has the quorum. So that means the president is disregarding the ruling of the Supreme Court. We talk in English. The president said he's going to continue. So you cannot continue something that you've not started. So that means it simply tells us that the president is going to continue working with the majority bloc that he recognized, the administration, the executive recognized weeks ago, months ago. So the president is going, the Boakai Coons administration is going to continue working with the majority bloc. When the president is aware that an issue at the legislature is unresolved, he have choose one side to work with.
Thank you.
As an executive. And the next thing is,
thank you. So
let me just conclude quickly, ma'am, please.
Okay.
So the first thing is President Boakai is now respecting the Supreme Court's ruling. Instead of acting on it, he is treating it just like another opinion. He's trying to legitimize Coon as the legitimate speaker, and he's calling for more consultation according to his address. And he's also choosing politics over the law. The court ruled, but President Boakai is still acting like it's still up for a debate. And the court showed clear support for the president showed clear support for Coon, even though he did not mention his name in his address. But everyone knows what the president's stance is at this point in time. So I'd like to close there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Let me go. We're at the okay. We're at the 9:48 mark. So we have about what 11 minutes. So I'm gonna have our guest close. Then we're gonna have Peter go ahead and go. I'm just gonna say something short, and we're gonna go ahead and move. Yes. Mr. Patmo, take
Oh,
about three minutes and bring us into
okay.
the close.
I will leave the political part. I'm going back to the transportation again because uh, that's my area.
Mhm.
I try, coming back to the purchasing of these buses and the amount that I heard that these buses that they spend on these buses, $1.3 million. And if you do the math and divide that by 55, something will tell me that those buses cost less than what, $30,000. And so if we say you were to purchase a bus for $30,000 and the life of 20 years, that means you will have to spend something close to $1 million on each buses. So right now we don't know the budget. Before we go through everything, we don't know the budget for transportation, and most of these rules I was talking about, examination, eye test, urine, those are things that the transportation ministry tell driver that they need to do them. So that up to the Liberian government. Is not a company mandate or rules of the company. This is law from the government. So if we don't have these laws, it does not matter. Those buses can be operated the way the Liberian government fit for it to be operated. And even when it comes to maintenance of these buses, servicing, those are also laws from the government. Because every company are in to make profit. So these everything I stated here, those are all laws. So those are not operational costs. People can cut through that to save money, but to go the right way and the safe way as the government, these are the things we need to implement. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patmo, and thank you for accepting to come and be our guest tonight to hang out with us. It's an honor having you. Thank you for the education. Our people needed to learn this. Hopefully, they will take you from you and they will do the needful thing, and carry on. We have to learn to repair ourselves. Peter?
So yeah, Alan. So thank you so much for being here. Anthony, thanks for being here. I want to close by saying this. Okay, so I will do the political part. I know you don't want to do political part. All I want to do is the political part. Joseph Boycott has never knew peace.
Me too. Yes.
Joseph Boycott has never knew peace.
I'm looking for a job. I want to do politics.
At
Never.
least it's forthcoming.
He doesn't want a job with my girl.
I know he does that.
All
I
right.
had a long conversation with him today. Mhm.
Joseph Boycott has never known peace. Ever. He's a tribal. He's an old primitive tribalist. That's all he knows. He don't know anything else. He's a guy who will bend, and he's a shape shifter. He would bend and twist just so he be in. He's never had a real job in his life. And when he was out of government, he became extremely poor.
Mm-hmm.
He lacks character. Joseph Boycott is not the person who should have been a leader. You name me one person who said this man's a problem solver. All the years, 42 years in government, you don't have one person who will come up and say, I will vouch for this main character. You know what? He's a peacemaker. This Pape had a list of grievances against people he's worked with. Mostly because all of them has fired him. All of them fired him. From Doe to Sawyer to Ellen. Ellen fired him because she didn't endorse him. That's a firing. Joseph Boycott has never, ever known peace. Listen, I don't care about the age thing. I treat children with respect. I treat everybody with respect when they earn it and deserve it. This man is putting our families' lives at a peril. It is not okay. For you to sit there and say, well, he's a pape, well, then you're part of the problem. Okay? Joseph Boycott does not respect the rule of law. Joseph Boycott was in the CPP. It was a disaster. Everywhere he's been was a disaster. Him and Ellie had a falling out. He went around saying, "Oh, I was a parked car, and they put me on the racing car." They got him on the racing in the race now. He's on the track. He's parked. He's there just taking money, just there leaking oil on the track. That's Joseph Boycott. Okay, this was not a legislative protocol issue. This is This was and is a constitutional issue. This is what the Supreme Court gets to rule on. The rule is clear. This is not just a procedural thing. This is written in the Constitution. You must have 49 to reach quorum. You must. The number is clear. And if it's a serious business, regular business, yeah, you can play with quorum. But when it comes to removing the speaker must be presiding. You must have a presiding speaker. There is no way around it. It is written in the Constitution. There was no way he could have won this. He's the president of the country, for God's sakes. People told him there's no way he can read it himself. A 2-year-old, a kid in the second grade can read and understand. You need 49, and you need the speaker present. You cannot have quorum before that, outside of that. So what does he mean when he said, "I'm going to work with the people of quorum"? Well, there was no people of quorum. They never reached quorum, and it's constitutional. And the Supreme Court gets to say what's constitutional, what's not. Just
exactly. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Peter. Tell them.
No matter how he feels about it, he doesn't have a say in that. All he can do is enforce whatever they say is there.
And that's his job, to enforce it.
Yeah.
That is his job.
Just to close here.
Yes.
The courts cannot reject some money allocated to them. They can't say, "Well, you knew it wasn't a speaker." No, the courts can only take cases that is brought to them. They can't interject themselves into a case that's not brought to them. Until Fanati Kofa and then brought a case to them, they had no business. They had to. Everything moves on until there's a ruling. The world keeps spinning. So it's not the court's fault. And anyone else who took the benefits under an illegitimate speaker, that's their business. That's how the government's functioning. While the case is in court, there was no ruling to say, "Well, we're going to put an injunction on a hold." So everything has to keep going. Okay. Boycott's not a leader, people. This is what I want to close with. And here's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter it matters that he's not a leader, because he's affecting the lives of people. He's affecting the lives of children. He's affecting the lives of so many Liberians. We picked the wrong person. And here's what we cannot do. We cannot say, "Oh, we made a mistake." You can only make so many mistakes. You didn't ask the proper questions. You didn't vet these people. You didn't look for nuanced details. Just as we talked about the buses tonight, people, before picking leaders, please ask real questions. Just like before picking the person you marry, or like buying a house, anything major, because there are people's lives on the line. We picked the wrong person. I don't care who don't like to hear it. You know what I don't like? Seeing kids in the car accident where they had to throw a 3-year-old body in the back of a pickup truck. That is disgusting. That is what we should be ashamed of. Not someone messing up your national anthem. Edwin Snow was the name I was looking for. Edwin Snow was talking about how Liberia wants to be on the Security Council of the UN. Understand this. There are only 3 African countries that can be on that panel. Only 3 seats allocated to African countries. You really think the United Nations, the people who are supposed to bring peace to other places when they can't resolve it themselves, they're going to select, your peers are going to select a country where the legislature and the executive are trying to form a coup against the speaker. Think about how insane that is.
Supreme Court.
And disregards the rules of the Supreme Court. Think about how not even insane, delusional Edwin Snow is, and and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and all these people who believe that they're going to be on the Security Council, as if that's going to help Liberia in one way, shape, or form. But they believe someone's going to pick them to be peacemakers when they can't even make peace in their own home. No more, Ali, you're wrong. We do want people coming back to our country and invest in our country. You don't get to speak for Liberians. Go again and explain how $250,000 was spent on digging a little hole. Okay, the impunity, Yasendi, just the galls, the audacity of these people. It is so disrespectful. It's literally a spit in our face. And here's how I'm closing. Moali, you don't get to bully nobody. You're literally a feminine man. You don't get to bully people's family. This is how you start wars. Selective justice and just talking crazy. Thank you so much, Yasendi.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. With Mr. Patmore, we appreciate your presence. We appreciate your knowledge, educating us tonight. Hopefully, it will get on, touch fertile ground that it will, what do call it, germinate and yield fruit. Mr. Don, thank you for staying up late to air us tonight. We're going to walk around and see what schedule would be best. And I see my sister Tony is here. Japa is here. Japa said he can come on and I don't acknowledge him. But Emmanuel is here. Since Rebecca always here. James is here. And to all of you that I can't see, I see that different people on the other side. Peter, Joyce, Hajad, my baby sister, Love. Yes, that's my baby sister. That's my baby right there. Okay. Thank you so much to the rest of you that I can't see now because I just flipped the information. Please share. As you know, your friend may not be my friend. We are just rebuilding this platform because you remember it was hijacked last year. Hacked last year. So we're rebuilding it and we are coming back strong. And if you're here, please follow or subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to play this and I'm waiting for Caroline's video to play here. So I think Peter just left. It's late. It's Peter here. Patmore, I'm going to go ahead and remove you. So good night, sir. There we go. I want you to listen to Quincy B. This is a Liberian young man song. This boy has been dead since I think 2016 or 2017, but it is so present today. Same thing, section of Liberia. So let's listen to him. I have no copyright to this. I have no copyright to this song.
I love it. Day and night break. Everybody on the hustle. Some people know like peace. They want some trouble.
I have no copyright to this song.
Crime rates on the increase. The government can protect the people. Hold up. No justice for the poor. Yeah. Look the way we're living. We're treating one another unfair. Look the way we're living. We're treating one another unfair. Look the way we're living. What's the hope for the future? What's the hope for the future? What's the hope for the future? The hope for the future. Yeah. We have everything in abundance, but we die and rot and breed. We pray, asking the Lord for another Moses, cause all we have is pharaohs. Yeah. In our suffering is what they're making business out. Yeah. The rich get richer and the poor people suffer. Them promise say, them bring development and better education. Our lands are fertile, no food on the land. Our children, we're pushing into bag. Look the way we're living, we treat them one another.
Our children, are pushing into begging. It is our suffering that they're making business of. And we just saw that, right? We just saw that in this past election. This election, and I will talk about it on Saturday. Please follow me on Saturday. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, Facebook and only now hold on any information for about what do you call it, for about 30 days, and then it removes it. Okay, so I will ask that you please follow us on there, okay, on our YouTube channel, so we can all be together on there. Okay, so let me shoot, where am I gonna do it here? Let me come back here. Hopefully it will stay here. Let me see if I can let me post this to our YouTube, put a link here. But I also wanted to say congratulations to Caroline. I had an opportunity when I went up to Texas to actually hang around in her office, her business. You know, you get to own a piece of America, not when you own a house. You get to own a piece of America when you have a business. Okay, you're an entrepreneur. So I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna get a other rendition of this and play this for her. If you're in the Texas area, please look her up. This is your daughter. This is your sister.
Hi,
This
I'm
is
Caroline Wallow,
Caroline Wallow, our
and founder
doctor
of Caroline
to be.
Healthcare Services, where your health, your time, and peace of mind truly matter. I started Caroline Healthcare Services because I saw too many patients being rushed through appointments, confused about their health, and left without the answers or support they needed. With over a decade in nursing and preventative medicine, I've made it my mission to slow things down so we can focus on what truly matters, you. At Caramas, every plan is personalized. We look at the full picture, your lifestyle, your health and family health history, so we can build an effective and efficient treatment plan. Whether you are focused on prevention, medical weight loss, or simply getting clarity on your health, we are here to help. Book your wellness appointment today. We can't wait to see you.
That's our Caroline. That's our right there. She's a girl too. She is a girl. She is a female. She is a daughter. Okay? She is a girl and about to be a doctor in nursing. She's getting her doctorate. She's enrolled in a doctoral program. She's a nurse practitioner. She's a girl. Those of you who sit around and insult your daughters and you accept people to insult them. You know, I have this guide on every post, like many of them, they're stalking, they're trolling, okay? To keep their jobs, they sacrifice their manhood and their dignity, okay? To be, listen, I keep telling her, my grandpa from my mother's side is Gio. My father is Mano. I'm a Mano woman, proud one. That your nonsense where you're on in Liberia talk about this is a political. It's not only political. I'm about to leave, but I'm gonna read this to you. When somebody say politics, the politics, if you don't take interest in politics, these people will continue. They will send their children out of the country. They will get them educated. They will come back to jobs. They will steal from you, and your children will continue to walk by land. They will continue to steal in the middle of the night. They will continue to be bearjacker. They will be beaten and on a live in the middle of the street, and your heart will hurt. They will show up and say to you, RIP. So you stand up. Everything is politics. Waka was begging yesterday. Politics got in position. Politics determines the direction of the nation because the people who are in the position of power, okay, it's politics that got them there. And they make those decisions that impacts you and your children. But that's the conversation starter for Saturday. Let's talk. Have a good night, everyone. Good night. this again has been another episode of Second to Africa.